I'm going to show you how to change the engine oil. Today I have a 2016 Mazda CX-5. And the first thing I do when I change oil is I add a little bit of crankcase cleaner to the oil. So I put that in there and I drive it for 5 to 10 miles, just get it nice and warm. So after we drive it, we let it cool down just briefly, about 20-30 minutes. Take these little plastic covers off to access the engine oil pan and the engine oil filter. And it's just a couple clips and 8mm bolts that come right out. There's a filter and the plug. Before you start this though, I should have mentioned you need to make sure you have a new gasket. So don't take the plug out until you have a new gasket. It is an 8mm Allen key drain plug. Make sure you have one of those. Normal 3/8 socket with a little extension because the oil filter can get in the way if you take the plug out first. So there's the plug, and we just put our 8mm Allen key on, loosen it up, take it off, make sure the oil pan is handy. And here comes the oil with the seafoam that was only briefly in the engine. It's coming out pretty dirty after 3,000 miles of mountain driving. Take your oil wrench and loosen the oil filter, and then barely start to loosen it by hand. A lot of drippings will come out. Let that all drip out, give it a couple minutes, and then take it off by hand. And with the oil plug out and the filter off, I add just a few ounces of oil to get out any residual dirty oil that still might be in the oil pan. And it's coming out pretty clean, so we're good. Then I take the new filter. It's a Mobil 1 M1 108A. I grab some of that dirty oil coming out, and I line the gasket of the new oil filter before I install, just like this. Just a light coating. And because it's a vertical filter, I am going to fill it up with oil a little bit to prevent the dry start. And I wipe down the mating surface of the oil filter where the oil filter mounts. There we go, it's on. Very hand tight, as tight as I could get by hand. Now to put the plug back in, we get the old plug. Well, rather the drain plug, and take off the old gasket. Put on the new gasket. And then wipe down the hole that the drain plug goes into and just reinstall it. And you should look up your vehicle's torque spec of the drain plug to make sure you don't over or under tighten it. I get a good feel for it, so I just tighten it to what I think is appropriate. So there's the new filter, and there's the drain plug back in. So we can take our 0W20, fill up the engine with oil, take a reading. After wiping it down, we want it to be to the full mark, so we got to add a little bit more. And once that's in, put that to the side just for a second. Check the level again, make sure it is full. It could even be a little higher in this case, as you'll see in a second. But as long as it's to that full mark, give it a start. Just let it run for a few seconds. Get the oil pumping through the engine, filling up the oil filter, which is why we filled it up, to prevent dry running. Take a reading. You're going to need to add a little bit more oil. So add the new oil, and then take another reading. Double check to make sure it's full after running it the first time. Turn the engine back on. Make sure the oil cap is nice and closed, and then double check to make sure you're not having any leaks near the drain plug or the oil filter. And with no leaks present, and it's completely full of engine oil topped off, we're going to put this little plastic guard back on. So we just line it up, put the clips in, and then tighten down those 8mm bolts that we took out. And again, after the car runs for the first time, make sure the oil is filled up back to the high mark. And that's it.